Hey, so welcome to this morning session, this afternoon session, depending on where you are. Sage Freeman and Monica Marlo are here to teach us a little bit more about engaging students with, was it Mozilla Hubs?
That's right.
Mozilla Hubs. Okay, so I'll turn it over to you guys and you can do your thing. Thank you for being here.
Great, thanks. We're glad you're all here. Actually, let me go ahead and share my screen now. Monica, I'll share now.
Okay, I'll go ahead and introduce myself real quick. I'm Monica Marlo, and I'm an engineer with Portland Community College, an immersive education engineer. And I am here as the guide on the side this morning to help Sage on the stage. I really wanted to use that joke, even though he is very good about being facilitator and not didactic about his conversation. We're here to talk to you about Mozilla Hubs. So Sage, take it away.
Great, yeah, thanks. Hi, everybody. I'm Sage Freeman. I'm a media specialist in the Center for Academic Innovation at Chemeketa Community College in Salem, Oregon. And yes, we're kind of bombing the Colorado conference. I'm just kidding about that. We're engaged with the conference last year when it was a combined conference with the Northwest eLearn and Northwest Met conference. And so we're excited to be back here again. And we're going to be presenting today on engaging learners in Mozilla Hubs. And so that's our topic. We've got lots of things to share with you. This is meant to be a fun and interactive session. And so I just wanted to explain the format for today. We're going to be sharing a 3D or virtual reality platform. And so it's a little bit difficult to be able to record that. So we'll spend most of our time or half of our time in Zoom today. We're going to do a presentation and show you what Mozilla Hubs is, how you can, some ideas for engaging learners inside of Mozilla Hubs. Also, we're going to share with you some virtual environments that we've curated, and then some resources that we have to leave with you. And we're going to give you just a really overview introduction of what Mozilla Hubs is to start. And so I wanted to share also that we've designed a website for you. We're going to be leaving this with you at the end so that you'll be able to go here and get to this information. And later, at the end of our Zoom session, when we're done recording, we will ask you all to join us here in Mozilla Hubs. If you're interested, we'll have some social networking at the very end, and we'll go on a virtual field trip to explore some virtual worlds. And so it'll be a little bit interactive at the very end there. We have some videos to share with you and some instructions on getting started so that you feel comfortable when you join us at the end of the session. And so I've got Monica with me, Monica Marlo. She's going to be monitoring the chat. So if you have questions during this, please feel free to make use of the chat. We will pause for questions, and Monica will do her best to answer questions as we go along as well. And so why don't we just go ahead and get started. As a reminder, we have 85 minutes today, so we have a lot of time, and this hopefully is going to be somewhat casual and comfortable for everybody, fun and interactive. So let me first introduce Mozilla Hubs. So Mozilla Hubs is a private social space that you can go and meet with your students in virtual reality or just on a desktop computer, mobile device, and you can meet with your students in 3D. I'd mentioned that we have some activities for getting started today, and we have some ideas to share with you about learner activities if you were interested in exploring this. And also, we have some resources here too. And let me go ahead and jump on over and show you. I'm going to get into a little bit of interactive screen sharing and a little bit of slide presentation at the same time. So I also wanted to just pause for a minute and give you a little bit of context or background. We first started, Monica and I first started working with Mozilla Hubs last year, prior to the conference last year. And so we did a presentation last year on creating virtual classrooms in Mozilla Hubs. That was our first time presenting on Mozilla Hubs, and this is our second time. And so we've had about a year of experience with it. We are still just kind of exploring and experimenting with Mozilla Hubs, so it is kind of at that level, and we'll tell you more about that. But we certainly have learned a lot over the last year, and we have applied Mozilla Hubs with students, and we'll tell you more about that as well, what we've done so far with it. So me explain what Mozilla Hubs is. First of all, you can get to Mozilla Hubs by going to hubs.mozilla.com to create a room. We actually have a room already here for our session today, so I'm going to join that room and make sure that I've got the chat open here too, so that I'm paying attention. Okay, so this is what it looks like when you first get to a room in Mozilla Hubs. And so you can join the room by clicking the Join Room button. You can also enter on a VR headset. If you have a headset, you can put in this link in your browser in your VR headset, and then you can easily add those characters to get in. You can also just spectate. If you don't want to enter the room, you just want to observe and spectate. It's kind of like a lobby. Let's go ahead and join the room. When I join the room, it'll ask me to allow for my microphone, and then I can enter the room. Now I'm already signed into this room, so it will be a little bit different for you if you've never been to Mozilla Hubs, but the steps are very close. And here we are in the room right now. So first thing I wanted to show you, and this is just an overview, an introduction to it, that we're going to spend some time. I'm going to share my screen in Zoom, and later, for those that didn't hear, we're going to ask you to join us later at the end of the session in Hubs. So if you have questions, feel free to keep them coming in the chat there, and we'll pause for questions. Monica, please interrupt me at any time with the discussion. So I just want to show you one thing that's interesting that you can do in Hubs is that you can do a lot of what you can do in Zoom. You can share your screen, share your web camera, turn on your microphone and have voice conversations. There's text chat, and there's more that you can do, but it's very similar to how you might interact with folks in a video conference environment. I'm going to click share here, and then I'm going to select camera. And here's my camera. So I'm going to put that up on the stage, and this is a place where I can place my presentation or web camera. Hi, everybody. This is me in Mozilla Hubs. I wanted to show you also, if I press the I key on my keyboard, then I can actually look at myself here in the space. And so here I am with Monica in Hubs. Hubs is a 3D space where it uses avatars, where you embody an avatar or you choose an avatar, and you can move around in spatial in 3D space and have real conversations with people. Hubs uses spatial audio, and what that means is that the closer you are to people, the louder you will be, and then the further away, the softer your voice is. That allows for real world conversations, or what feels like real world conversations with others when you're in here networking or meeting with people. So for example, you can break out and have private conversations in a large space like this. Right now we're in the meeting hall. This is the default room. When you very first go into Hubs, this is what you see if you were to create a room on the Hubs website. And it's meant for kind of a large space for gathering. So let me go ahead and also show you, if I click the share button, I can share my screen here as well. So I'm going to share my screen just so you can see that. And I believe I don't have a good image to share with you, but I believe I can show this. So here's my computer screen as well. I'm going to place that up on the stage. And then if I were to just kind of get my screen prepared here, which I don't have it prepared, I should have, but in any case, there you can see I've got sharing my computer screen up here, another way to present content in this space. So to no surprise, you can share your screen in web camera. That's one of the first things that we wanted to share with you. So I also want to give you an overview of the controls and settings. Before I do that, I'm going to change the scene for this room. In Mozilla Hubs, there are different scenes. So I already explained that this is the default scene, and we created a room from that scene. So there are scenes and rooms in Mozilla Hubs. I'm going to click on the More options here and select Room Info. And this is where I can change the scene for this room. I can select from lots of different scenes that are available on Mozilla Hubs that are created by the community of users. And Hubs does support Creative Commons open licensing, so you can give attribution to these creators when you use their work. You can also create your own scenes here, and this is the one that I wanted to share with you today. This is a scene that we've created specifically for students to be able to do presentations in Hubs. When you first enter the scene, we have you positioned so that you're looking at the navigation controls in this space so that you can get familiar with how to move around. In Hubs, you use the WASD keys on your keyboard. You can also use the arrow keys to move forward, backward, left, and right. You can use the Q or E keys to rotate your view. And so that helps when students first enter the space. You can also left click and drag to look around. There are some other keys here too. For example, you can right click on the ground to teleport to different locations. And there's also touchscreen controls as well. So if you're on a mobile device or if you're on a computer that doesn't have a mouse, then there are options for that as well. So this is the room that I just want to introduce you to. It's meant to be an enclosed space, and so that students don't get, lost or wander off, because it's also meant to be a group presentation area. As you can see here, we have a staging spaces where students can place content on the wall, or the instructor can place content on the wall. And if I were to do that, I'm going to go ahead and click on place, and I can place my, I can upload files, for example. So I'm going to upload a file that I have on my computer here that I have ready to share. And I can just drag and drop it also into the room. Now, I'm going to place it here on the wall, and it should snap right into place. And this is the presentation that we want to share with you and give you a little bit more overview. Before I jump into the slides here, I'll pause for a minute and see how we're doing with chat. Put that back into place.
Well, a good comment came up is that you could use this easily for an art class or a graphic design class. And I said, yes, you can actually use this exact space. And we even have directions on how to customize branding. It takes a little bit of additional capability out in a 3D program, but that is possible. Or you could just pull it off the shelf and use it.
Yeah, definitely. It can be, it could be a student gallery, student artwork. It could be student presentations. What we've done so far with students in Mozilla Hubs is just introduced it to them at a very low stakes level. We invited students to come in to do group presentations for a first year experience class. And the instructor helped to facilitate the experience. For example, students provided their work, their presentations ahead of time, and the instructor placed it on the wall for them. All students had to do was come in and know how to navigate around. And then also they were able to click and advance the slides on their presentations. And so that was kind of the extent of what they were doing for interaction in this space. But it was very engaging. Students did have a good experience with it. And we did see students coming in on different devices. We didn't have a lot of technical issues, and we had 3 different classes that went through this experience. So just to continue on, I've got a presentation up here on the wall that I want to tell you a little bit more about Mozilla Hubs.
1 second, we've got a couple questions.
Okay.
One answered about how you're putting those media frames up, but someone wanted to see how well you can zoom in. So can you zoom in and show some details on some graphics?
Yeah, you bet. You can zoom in. I'm using my mouse wheel right now. When there is content in the room and you can be far away, you can right click on the content, and then you can zoom in and out on that content, and you can click and pan or rotate around your view. Right now I'm inspecting what's considered an object in this space. So that there are a couple ways to do it. You can press the F key for focus, and it does the same thing, or you can right click on a mouse. And hopefully that gives you some idea. I'm using it really just to kind of demonstrate both a close-up view here as I'm interacting, because I know that this isn't the best view for you as I'm sharing my screen. So I want to be able to right click on that, maybe zoom in on it a little bit, and then so that you can see it in better detail, but I do have to release it to advance the slides. If another thing that's interesting here too, By the way, we don't expect you all as an audience today to pick up all of these skills. There's a lot to know with Hubs. I would think that we'd have to spend 1 or 2 training sessions with you to get up to speed on all of the skills to be successful in here. Hubs has a really simple user interface, and it is easy to learn. There's not a really big learning curve, but there is things to learn about it. And I just wanted to set expectations for all of you today, knowing that we really only expect you to learn some basic navigation skills to join us at the end of the session, but we're going to leave you with resources to learn more. And so I do want to go through the user interface and describe that, but I also want to share with you these slides. So let me go through the slides first, and then I'll show you the controls and settings. And again, Monica, thanks for the chat. If anything comes up, feel free to interrupt me. To tell you a little bit more about Hubs, Hubs is a virtual collaboration space. You can go out to hubs.mozilla.com and create a room. You can also sign in with an email address to be able to do more. There's a visual editor or designer called Spoke. If you want to go further with Hubs, you can create your own custom scenes. And Spoke is a friendly web-based editor. I'm going to show you just a sneak peek of what that looks like. Hubs also provides a Hubs cloud version if you're someone who's interested in hosting your own server. Hubs runs on open source licensed software, and you can run your own instance if you have those skills and willing or interested to do that. And there are a lot of people that are running their own versions of Hubs on Amazon servers. But you can just use hubs.mozilla.com if you're not interested in Hubs Cloud, and you can use the Spoke editor to create scenes. And just as a reminder that Hubs does work on all devices. So you can access these rooms on mobile devices. The experience is not exactly the same. You have to pinch and zoom to move about in the room. And there are limited features or controls compared to the desktop. I think the desktop has the most controls and features, but and that is even true with the VR headset. There aren't not as many options with the VR headset, but still quite a bit, and the experience is different. So one of the things that I wanted to share with you also is what it looks like when we're in here on a VR headset, where I do have the ability to just join you here quickly to show you what I look like when I'm in a VR headset. I have hands, and my avatar will have hands, and I can be a little bit more expressive with my body when I'm in a VR headset. So some ideas for immersive learning use cases for education, and this is true for not just Hubs, but other platforms too. These are great spaces for communication, social networking. Certainly you can do group work in here and collaborate with others. You have meetings and events that you could be holding in here, and art galleries and showcases. We already mentioned that as a potential use case. Peer support groups. The thing about that is that because you embody an avatar, you might have less, maybe less anxiety, or feel more willing to approach or find support in a space like this. Simulations and skills training. That's what we think of probably most often when we think of virtual reality and education. You can do simulations and skills training in here, but it's not going to be as friendly as this is really designed for social networking, communication, presentations, that sort of thing. So, but there are possibilities for simulations. And so to give you an idea of what you can do in here, you can add content. I already talked about the different scenes, and we're going to share with you some examples of scenes. Like here's one from the Hubs team created that is a school, has 3 different rooms and 5 breakout rooms, 3 classrooms and 5 breakout rooms. Also, and I apologize, realize I have my camera on and I'm not giving good eye contact, but I'm looking at my second screen here at the same time. You can add 3D models. So I wanted to share with you also how you can add 3D models in the space. You can also change your avatar or create custom avatars. And what's great about creating custom avatars is that you can have personalized presence, which is a nice option for people that want equity or want to express themselves in different ways. And that might be avatars that are not even human. Be all kinds of different avatars, as you might expect in this space. So also want to tell you that there's positional seating. What we mean by that is that when you press the space bar, you might see there are places that you can click on to snap to place into the seat. Here's an example of showing students in the seats in the back. I don't know if that's something that you'd really leverage, but it's interesting, and I think it could be leveraged more in this space. We talked about spatial audio a little bit already. Hubs uses spatial audio, so by when you're in here, you do need to get closer to people if they don't hear you very well. Another thing you could do is press the space bar, and you can turn folks' volume up and down if you're having trouble hearing them. And if Monica and I wanted to have a private conversation, we could break out into the corner of the room. This room is not great for breakouts, though, because it's kind of a smaller space. So it wasn't really meant for breakouts necessarily. Media frames is something that you can add using the Spoke editor, or sometimes scenes come with it. And you've already seen it. What I've been doing here is pinning or placing content. It snaps to place into these frames. I'm going to show you some demonstrations here in a little bit with some activities where we use these frames and really help facilitate presenting and interacting with content. So 3D models, I do want to share with you. I've got an activity plan that I want to share with you, just a demonstration of how you might use models with students. There are lots of different models that are available for you to take advantage of. You don't have to create models yourself. And I wanted to share with you more about the Sketchfab website that's built into Mozilla here, where you can find models just by searching using key terms. And we want to share a few key concepts around models as well for best practices. Thank you, Monica, for putting the link to Sketchfab in the chat. When you're in Hubs, if you sign in, that means that you'll be able to create rooms and manage the permissions in the room. And so you'll be able to do things like you can change the settings and allow students to be able to do things in the room, like create objects or not. You can allow them to draw in the room using a pen tool, or you can manage those settings. So you're really in control of those things. And that's something that we wanted to point out. Another thing too is you will be able to manage people in your rooms if you sign in. And sometimes you might need to moderate users in a room. I would think that it's actually probably rare in Mozilla because these are not public spaces. These are private spaces. So when you create a room, you share the link with those that you invite to the space. But if you did need to moderate people, you can press the space bar and you can moderate people here. Like I could hide Monica or kick her out of the room. If I clicked on the people icon here, I can also click on Monica and I could promote her, which I'm going to do here. And that gives Monica the similar permissions that I have so that she could help me moderate the room if necessary. So just know that there are some options there for participant management in the room. And I wanted to share with you just my report card for Hubs. Let me zoom out a little bit there so that's not blocking that. So with accessibility, I know we gave an introduction during the virtual, the metaverse tour yesterday, the session that was yesterday. We talked a little bit about accessibility. Hubs features are not fully accessible at this time. However, this is changing. So this is a report card. This is a snapshot in time. And I do think that Mozilla Hubs is working towards becoming fully accessible, and that includes the community of users and creators that are supporting it. So I'm optimistic that we'll be able to say that in the future or near future, Hubs will meet our accessibility standards in education. But it's important that you know your audience. So Hubs is not recommended for broad use at this point. I would consider it experimental or exploratory. It's also in regard, so I give it 3 stars. So that's just my starring system, everyone, my scoring system, but 3 out of 5.
And I'm right there with you, Sage. I'd say we're doing great strides. And because it's an open community and there are many of us with the heart of wanting to make this tool universal from the get-go, there's lots of work going on, but we're not quite there yet.
Yes. And then privacy. So with privacy, actually, Mozilla is doing quite well. Mozilla is the company or the organization that creates Firefox. And they're really, they support a free and open internet. They support equity and diversity. They support privacy, high privacy standards. And so when it comes to Mozilla Hubs, you don't even have to ask your students to provide any personal information. They don't have to create an account to participate in Hubs. If you create an account, there are some advantages, but all you do is provide an email address. And even then, Mozilla doesn't actually store that information. So it is very private. And in regards to reliability, it's an open source solution, and the help is really limited. So if you're looking for help with Hubs, you're most likely going to find it in their Discord community. And not everyone is, Discord users, or also you're not going to be able to contact Hubs directly for support. So that's important to point out. And I think reliability is a little lower, 2 stars out of 5. Ease of use, it's very easy to use, but that is, when I say easy, that's a perspective. It's relative to my experience. But I do think that Hubs uses some universal navigation controls, like those WASD keys that are commonly found in PC games, also the arrow keys for navigation, and just some of the mechanics of moving around in Hubs is somewhat universal. The interface is somewhat simple. I'm about to explain the interface, so you can draw your own conclusions there. I give it a 4 out of 5 on the ease of use. Hubs is free to use, so I gave it 5 stars for that. I had mentioned already it's an open source license. And so if you create an account, it's all you do is sign in with an email address. You'll be able to favorite rooms, get to those permission settings and managing your rooms. You can moderate users and do more with that. And we'll tell you more about creating avatars as well. And I did mention that you won't be able to find help directly from Hubs. However, you can go to their GitHub repository. We have links to this if anybody's interested. We're going to share our slide presentations with links that is on that website. So everything will be available to you afterward. You can get to their GitHub repository, and there's a discussion board where you can ask questions, submit issues. And also the Discord community is quite friendly, and there is a lot of help there. And the Hubs team is available to answer questions. It's just not expected. So you can ask questions and hopefully they will answer. And so that's the end of the slide presentation in terms of the overview. So I'd like to just pause for a minute and then give an overview of the controls and settings. And then I want to jump into some demonstrations of activities that you can do in here. So hopefully everybody's interested and engaged so far. Let me just keep going here. So I want to introduce the interface, and I've got the ability to kind of highlight my cursor here to show you what this looks like. So I'm going to come over here and show you the user interface in Hubs. You might have noticed that there's a toolbar in the lower part of the screen here. There's some buttons at the top. So the interface is quite simple. Let me just give you an overview of the toolbar. In the lower left corner, there's the invite button. This is where you can copy the link and invite people. So I could copy that and put it in the chat. This is a short link, so it's a little bit shorter than the URL, but it's can be used. You can also use iframe embed code. I have experimented with the iframe embed code in our Canvas learning management system. I was interested to see if, maybe that was a little bit more friendly for students to access a room for the first time, or something like that. I don't like the idea of embedding the room, though. I like to have the full browser, but that's available to you. Over here, we've got the microphone controls. So just like in Zoom or other places, you can change your microphone. You can mute your microphone. If you have different microphones, you can choose the right one. Same with your speakers, and test your audio. And then there's a share button here where you can share your camera or your computer screen. If you share your computer screen, it'll ask you if you want to share your entire screen, a window, or a Chrome tab. And I noticed that I have the ability to share audio from a Chrome tab. On Windows, you might be able to share audio from your entire screen. I'm on a Mac computer today, so these are my options for sharing, but they're very similar to Zoom or other video conferencing screen sharing options. If I click the place button, this is where I can place all sorts of content. Let me zoom in on that for a minute. So first of all, there's a pin tool, and I'm going to share with you an activity of how you can use the pin tool in this space, like with a whiteboard. You can also share a camera, and that is actually a camera for taking pictures of yourself, like a selfie. So here I am. And if I click the options down below, I can set the timer. So how long does it take to either record video or take a picture? So you can record videos as well here. I'm going to take a picture of myself just so you can see there. Smile.
Sage, the statement that you're using Chrome, not Firefox, came up, and I just mentioned that we noticed it works better in Chrome from our experience at the moment.
Yes, Firefox, unfortunately, is not as well supported as Google Chrome is, but they're all using standards. So you should know that the standards that are used in Hubs are shared across browsers. This is not proprietary. We're using standards like WebXR is the name of one of the standards for having virtual reality or extended reality in the browser. But yes, so Chrome works better, but you can use Firefox. I've heard that sometimes folks have a little trouble with Firefox. If you're on a VR headset, the Oculus browser works better than the Firefox reality browser as well. So I use the Oculus browser when I'm on the Oculus Quest 2 headset. So yeah, I was just kind of going through the controls here and sharing with you the place button. You can share a camera. You can share GIFs. When you share a GIF, it's like going out to Giphy, and you can search for GIFs. And what's nice about that is you can use it for reactions, for example. So it might be great for giving feedback in the space. That could be something that's useful. You can also click the place button and you can share a 3D model. When you click 3D model, it will go out to the website Sketchfab. And I just wanted to show you what Sketchfab looks like. So when you go to sketchfab.com, this is a 3D model marketplace, online marketplace for 3D models. You can go out to here and actually purchase models for things like video games, media projects, however 3D models are being used. This is the #1 marketplace. You should also know that educators use this. And there are curated collections of 3D models that are free to use, available under open source licensing, Creative Commons licensing for sharing and download. Not all models are available for download. It's built right into Hubs. So you are going to see a lot of silly or unrelated content that maybe you don't feel like is appropriate for education, and I understand that. But you will find some models that are great as well. So, like, for example, I can search for planets, and I can find examples of planets here. So maybe if I want to bring in a model, one thing I have to be careful about or knowledgeable about is how big these models are, and that sometimes models are they're too large for use in Mozilla Hubs. And there's a little bit to know about that. We're not going to spend any time on that today, but we wanted you to know that that is true. Now my model, where did that model go, Monica? I didn't see where the model went. Let me click the place button once more. Click 3D model. Let's try a different one here. Okay, so there's an example of a model. I'll bet you that there's the other model might have come in too small. I did that wrong. I'll do that one more time. When you place a model in the room, you can click on it and manipulate it or interact with the model. And I'm going to share with you more about how to do that. I've got some activities planned. So let me just finish the interface tour here. You can add avatars into a room. When you add avatars, you can go to featured avatars. There are many avatars up here, so be aware there is a next page button at the bottom. You can also search for avatars. And a lot of the avatars do look a bit cartoony. You can use also custom avatars in here, and there's more to know about that. For example, Monica and I are using Ready Player Me avatars that we created and brought into this space because we wanted to have kind of a little bit more professional look or presence. That's possible. And then placing here, you can also place scenes. When you place a scene, what you would do is it would be like a postcard that you would put in place. And then when I click on that, then you can see it will switch us to that scene. So now Monica, here we are in a Christmas scene. And I didn't mean to click on that, actually, that was accidental. So I'm going to get rid of this and I'm going to click on the More button and go to Room Info. And we need to go back to our scene here. So I'll switch it back to the classroom scene that we were just in.
We did
notice
snow in April's age, so that was almost appropriate.
That's true. We've had some cold weather here in Oregon. You notice when I switch the scene that it does have a transition and kind of does a fade to black and back up again, so it's not too abrupt. But that's how you can change the environments and move into different spaces. That's what we're going to do at the very end. For those that like to join us, we'd like to invite you in, and then we'll go on some tours of different virtual spaces together. The place, you can see that there's also a last button here. That's the upload button. The upload button invites you to upload either what's called a GLB file, and that is like a model file, a PNG, a JPEG, a GIF, an MP4 file, or an MP3 audio file. This is not very intuitive, but you can browse for files on your computer by clicking that attachment icon, or placing or pasting in a link to an asset. So for example, I could go out to youtube.com and go to my college's YouTube channel here, and I'm going to
searching for a better way to collaborate with your
copy this share link here for this video. YouTube videos sometimes are problematic in Hubs, and that's because YouTube is actually not allowing for a lot of streaming in Hubs right now. So, but we can create a YouTube video here and see if this does work. You can see when I try to add an object, what it's going to do is have a little gizmo loading, and then it loads the video. And then I can come over here and place this video, for example, on the wall. And that's how you can place content using that upload button. So you can place images, videos, and other things here using that option. There is a react button here. When you click the react button, similar to Zoom, you have different reactions, non-verbal reactions. So there's happy. And what happens is they're 3D, they show in the room and then they disappear. So they don't stay for too long. Happy, there's like, that's laughing. You've got applause. There's a heart, like I love that, love it. I think that's another applause. I'm not always sure exactly why there's two. This one is an angry face. And then finally, there's a sad face here too. You can press the number keys on your keyboard, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, if you just want to quickly react. You can also click on these and move them around and throw them in the air. And they disappear. So reactions are kind of fun. We also have a new addition here in Mozilla Hubs, and this is actually really handy. This is the raise hand feature. And so when I raise my hand, then I should have a hand over my head. Monica, are you able to raise your hand? I'm not sure if you're able to. If you did, we could see, maybe we could see if you have your hand raised. I know that I can.
Are you seeing it?
Oh yeah, okay, so I'm not sure. I guess it might just be displayed here. Oh, you know what it is? I have turned off in my preferences the name tag visibility here. So I'm going to turn on name tags because they show over people. So there's Monica's name tag right now, and when she raises her hand, we should see her hand raised. And then I can also select her. I believe, I don't know if I could lower her hand. I think she has to be able to lower her own hand.
Yep.
But that's helpful. You know, we talk over each other in these spaces, like with in Zoom, the raise hand feature is really helpful to facilitate that so we don't talk over each other. Or if you want to recruit volunteers in the space, that's another way of doing that, is clicking on the react button, inviting students to use the raise hand feature. The chat is very much chat. So when you click on chat, you'll see a sidebar on the right, and you can click text messages over here. Hello world. And there are some other things to share with you about chat that we're going to go into in just a bit here, because we're just about done with the showing the controls and settings. I've showed you the toolbar and all the options here. There is a more button over to the lower right corner, and that's where you're going to find some more options. For example, if you're signed in, you'll see your name here. You can create rooms from this menu, although there's other places to do that. Where I most come to this menu, and I'm most often coming here, I'm using it to change my name and my avatar. I'm using it to go to my preferences, or I'm using it to get to the room settings. The rest of these I don't really use too much, so there's just a few options that are like most useful here. If I click change name and avatar, then I have the ability to change my name. So for example, Monica's name is now showing correctly. I see she changed her name. If you've ever played a Kahoot game, you know how they have the silly anonymous names. That's what Mozilla will assign you if you don't change your name. So often it's helpful to direct students to the more button when they're in here for the first time, and help them, let them know how they can change their name by clicking on change name and changing it. So that way you can identify them in the space. You can change your avatar by like clicking on change avatar. If you create your own avatars like I've done, you'll have avatars listed under my avatars here. If you just wanted to use one of the featured avatars, then you can click on featured, keyword search for an avatar, or browse through them. And there are some interesting ones here, although like I said, a lot of them do seem a little bit cartoony, but everybody seems to have fun with them. There are some generic avatars that the Hubs team has created that are robot-like. And those are like often the default avatars that you're assigned when you enter the room. You might be a robot that looks like one of these. And lastly, in the top right corner, you can click on objects, and it'll show you all these different objects that are in the room. And if you were to click on them, that would be similar to that focus where you could zoom in and out. We showed you that earlier, where you could right click or press the F key and focus on a piece of media. And you can do the same thing with the objects button. You can click the people button and see the people that are in the room, similar to the participants panel that is in Zoom. And I noticed here just now there's a mute all button. I've never used that, Monica, but that could be helpful.
Yeah, I haven't either.
Okay, so let's take a look at our website here. So what we've been doing so far is just kind of giving you an overview of the tools and settings. we want to share with you some ideas for learner activities. And so we've got some ideas that we've already shared with you, like group presentations. I want to share with you some ideas for doing whiteboard activities, interacting with 3D models, and using media frames and avatars. And so let's just jump into that portion of the demonstration. So if that sounds good, Monica, I'll just keep going here.
Sounds good.
I'm going to come over here and use this space. So when I press my space bar in Hubs, I get extra controls. I get context controls. So for example, if I wanted to delete this video, I hover my mouse over it, press the space bar, and then I've got other options like trash can to delete, make a copy, rotate it, scale it. I'm going to go ahead and delete these and get this ready for the next, for the demo here. So I'll tell you about pinning objects as well here. Okay, so I need to place some objects in the scene, and I can click the place button, but I can also just drag files right from my computer into this space. So for example, I want to share with you an idea for a whiteboard activity. And I've got a graphing image here. I've got a simple graph. I'm going to place that here. And then if I hover over it and press the space bar, I can click the pin button. When I click pin, then the image is going to stay in this space. It becomes persistent. So if I were to leave the space and come back tomorrow, the image would still be there. And when you're a room moderator, or if it's your room in Mozilla Hubs, you have those controls to pin objects. You can also allow others to pin objects or not. And so that's important for persistence. Let's say, for example, you want to prepare your classroom ahead of time and put the content in the room and have it ready to go. You could do that by pinning your content in the room. So I'm also going to scale this. So I'm going to hover over that and scale that a little bit larger. And I've got another thing here I want to share. So back to I've got the instructions here for how to use the pin tool. Place it in here. Make that bigger, and then let me pin that. And so these are the instructions for using the pin tool in Hubs. It may not look easy, but it actually is pretty easy once you learn these keyboard shortcuts, and I'm going to show you that. But this might be helpful, right, for if you're going to do this activity with students, to have something like this to be able to share with them. And so in this type of activity, this might be a graphing activity. If I click the chat window, I mentioned how I can chat. So another thing you can do is add text labels using the chat window. So let's say this activity is called line attack. I'm going to click on the magic wand icon to create a post-it note or label in the room. I'll place it over here. All right, so we're getting close. I'm kind of setting up the space here. Make sure I pin that in place. And then the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to ask students to, let's say, solve an equation, right? So, or to graph an equation. So maybe if this were a math or science class, I could ask them to do that. Maybe it's would like them to graph 3x plus y equals 12. Let's just say. Okay, so I'm going to put this right down here underneath. Make that a little bit bigger and pin it in place. So now I've kind of set up this activity where I could invite students to come in and interact with me. And this is great. I've got Monica with me, so maybe Monica and I can do this together. In this activity, you might ask all students to do it as a group, and then you could start to see some trends as to how students are graphing this equation. If I click the P key, then I can turn on the pin tool. And if I, if it says while holding the pin, I can hold the shift key and the mouse wheel, and that will make it bigger. So you can see how I can make that bigger, for example, which would be too big. Let me make that a little bit smaller. And if I wanted to use a different color, then it says I can press the Shift E or Shift Q. Now, those are the same keys that I use to rotate, but it looks like it tells me to press the Shift key with it instead. So let's do that. Pen key, Shift Q, and now I cycled through the different colors, as you can see. So maybe in this case, you might have students were choosing different colors with the pen tool and asking them or inviting them to mark up the graph. This is just one idea of a potential activity that students could be doing. And also, another thing that I wanted to share with you is what it's like when you're when you have somebody in here in a VR headset. I believe I can share that with you. So I've already got this queued up, and I'm going to go ahead and join the room here on my Quest headset. Hopefully you're all seeing my video here too. You can see me wearing the headset. I've got my controllers here. So I'm going into the Oculus browser, and I'm just putting in the address to this room, and it's loading the room now.
Thankfully, that was that short link that only takes a couple of clicks over a whole line of information.
I had to I did it earlier, so I didn't have to sit there and put it in.
Nice.
So now I'm in here in the room, and if everybody can see me, and hopefully I believe you can see me. Okay, yes, you can.
My avatar is now jealous that your avatar has hands. Hello.
I have hands now, and you can see I'm much more expressive, right? Because it's using the headset, the gyroscope in the headset to be able to allow me to animate the head on my avatar. And my hands also do have fingers, so I can use my hands for a little bit of gesturing. But what I did want to share with you is also when you use the pen tool in VR, you get an actual pen, right?
So a good question has come up in text about this, Sage. When someone makes comments or marks, can we see independently who's left those marks?
No, so it's not that sophisticated. So yeah, you'd have to have some discussion with who is green, and you know, maybe they could put their names.
Well, and I think this is where experience design would matter. So you can only have a maximum number of colors per group, probably working on one exactly. You might assign that ahead of time and make sure that you break your work groups down into the number of people that actually can work with it. So if it's 6 colors, that would be the maximum group.
And so I'm just kind of flying around here in 3D with the pen tool, and I could say that the experience is really quite different, in VR, but there are pros and cons for both. So I do think that it's worth exploring in a VR headset if you have one. It's really quite an immersive experience, but the controls are not as robust as they are on a desktop. And also, it's really hard to share content in here because all my content is on my computer. So sharing content it's just much easier to be able to be in Hubs on desktop compared to VR. But for that immersive experience, or if you're a college or university that might have a VR lab where you have the equipment and you'd like to create an engaging lesson or experience, there's a lot of possibilities for Hubs to do that. And you notice I had turned around. You see me turning around in virtual reality, actually looking at myself. Okay, well, so let's see. I just wanted to regroup for a minute here and share another activity, which would be working with 3D models. So far, we kind of covered some ideas for presentations and whiteboard tools. And I have some ideas for working with 3D models. There are lots of things you can do with models in Hubs, and really it's kind of up to your creativity as well. Let me share with you an example that I was thinking of. So I've got an example of a make sure I've got this ready to go. Yeah, so I've got a planet here. I've got some different planets that I want to add to the space. So one of them is Earth. And actually, I've already kind of prepped this model ahead of time. You know, this is a GLB model. And that is what I consider like the JPEG of 3D models these days. Hubs uses these GLB files as model formats that you can bring into the space. And this is an animated model of the Earth, as you can see, and I can step inside of it. Has an animated atmosphere. And with models, if I click on them, I can move them around. I can also scale them, rotate them, and then make copies of them. I can click the trash can to delete them. So one thing that I might do here, for example, in this activity is maybe I want to invite students to have an interactive experience with the solar system. And so maybe I'm going to place the Earth here, and then I've got some other planets. Like, for example, we could bring in the sun. And then we could bring in Saturn or some other planets here. I'm just doing some of these that are recognizable for the purpose of this demo. And by the way, these models came from Sketchfab, and they are using textures from the actual planets themselves. So they are somewhat realistic. Get rid of this one over here. And I've got another one here. Let's say it's Venus and Mercury here, or maybe Mars. We often know Mars when we think about the solar system. We think about, or at least it's in the news a lot. But you could invite students to, for example, position these planets according to maybe the sun. You could also invite students to resize the planets to their relative scale and location here. Let's bring Mars in as well. There we go. And then Jupiter, right? If we brought in Jupiter, and Jupiter, we all know it's much larger, probably even larger than that, from what I recall. And I need to move it out of the way. I've got Saturn here. I got to pull over here. But there you can kind of see what I'm doing with this and how I can use these models to create some sort of interactive experience, right, with students. There are other opportunities besides just using models in a room like this. I could actually create a scene that is in outer space where we're looking at these models as well. And I do actually have one, if we have time at the end on our field trip, to look at that. So and so that was models, Monica, just looking at the different models that are examples of how to work with models. And we looked at Sketchfab and how to bring some models in from there, how to manipulate these models. And I just wanted to share with you like some ideas that you might use. Let's look at avatars here also. I wanted to share with you how to use avatars. And so I'd like to place an avatar in the space here. I can click the place button and choose avatar. And there are lots of different avatars. I already mentioned that. If I go to my avatars, I have one here that I created that is a crocodile. And when I place it in the room, I can even put it up here in the space and make this bigger. And I can pin it in the room. And so now what happens is, let's see, probably a little easier. We could see Monica do it, but that's okay, Monica. I'll do it myself here. So I'm right now, this is my avatars, my Ready Player Me avatar that I'm using. If I click on Use Avatar, then all of a sudden, this is my avatar. And by the way, this is a talking crocodile avatar. So I made it so that his mouth animates with his voice, and it's kind of fun. But the point being here, like you can use avatars for you might divide up students in a group, for example, and you might have different colored avatars or different characters, and you might invite group 1 to all share an avatar, and then group 2 could be a different avatar. I've done activities in Hubs at other conferences where we did some karaoke activities just for a fun, interactive type of activity. And so in this case, what we did was we all became this talking crocodile. And then I had, some video with the music playing on the wall, and we could all sing along. That was kind of an example of using an avatar for, let's say, role playing, or taking on different characters. So maybe you have a scene in Mozilla Hubs where it's a historic scene, and you want students to maybe take on personalities from history. So it just depends on what avatars are going to be available out there for you to use and to get creative with that type of application. But yeah, there is a whole community of avatar creators out there. And so let's see. So now I just wanted to check in on our time, Monica, because I see we're right at 11 o'clock at the 60-minute hour. And I think we're getting close here to inviting folks to leave Zoom and join us in Hubs for those that are interested.
Perfect timing. I was just going to pop in and tell you that it's 11, but we're already there. Thanks.
All right. Well, I have some getting started instructions that I'd like to share with you, and it'll be a little bit repeat from what I already did, but this is hopefully going to help you to understand how to navigate, how to join the room for the first time, how to navigate around the room, and then how to manage your microphone and chat. So just want to play these very quick tutorials. And then what we're going to do is we're going to put a link to this website so that you can get there from Zoom. We'd recommend that you actually leave Zoom and not stay, because you're going to be using your microphone in Hubs, and you don't want to compete in Zoom. So when you go to this website, feel free to bookmark it in case you get lost or need to come back to this site to find us. And to join the room, you can just click on this button right here, and that's where you're going to be able to join the room. So let's just share with you the getting started options here. So let me go ahead and share. I need to do a new share. And I'm going to play a quick video for you here on how to join a room. To join a room in Hubs, you'll have 3 options: join room, enter on a device such as a VR headset, or spectate, which means just observe and don't enter the room. Click on join room to enter the room. Change your display name, and then change the avatar if you'd like, or just use the default avatar. Click the accept button. Next, click allow in your web browser to allow your microphone. Then click the enter room button. And that's it, you've entered the room. And that's how you enter a room in Mozilla Hubs.
Sorry, can you share the 6-digit code for this room again, please?
Yeah, so there, Monica, the 6-digit code, that is, I'm not sure what your question is.
It might be 4. It's the VR code to get in on a headset.
Okay, so the way that works is that when you go to the room for the first time, what you do is you're going to click on this option right here, enter on device, and you will go to hub.link and enter that code. This code is only for you only. This is not to be shared with other people, so it's only for your entry into the space. So Monica, I'm not sure if that helps or not.
It does, thank you. That was far more difficult to describe than just show.
I know. So we also want to share with you the navigation controls real quick. So let's make sure that you know how to move around. And here's a quick video just to share with you how to move around in Hubs. Here's how to move around in Mozilla Hubs. Click and drag with your left mouse button to look around. You can right-click with your mouse button to teleport to certain locations. Use your W, A, S, and D keys on your keyboard to move forward, backward, left, and right. Use the Q or E keys to rotate your view. You can click with your mouse and use your keys to move and look at the same time. Press and hold the Shift key to run while moving. If permitted, press the G key to fly. You can fly through objects and walls. Press the G key again to return to the ground. And that's how you can move around in Mozilla Hubs. And so, yeah, we've just got one more for you, and that is how to use your microphone and chat. And then we'll go ahead and put that link into the chat and invite everybody to join us in Hubs and leave Zoom. As a reminder too, Amanda's with us from the conference, and she put a link in there for the evaluation and for the Discord community to join that for the, I think it's the metaverse track. Hopefully I got that right. So one more here to share with you. Let me share this one here. This one is how to use your microphone and chat. Here's how you can manage your microphone settings and chat with others in Mozilla Hubs. To find your microphone settings, look for the microphone icon in your toolbar. Select the up caret next to it to access the audio settings. From here you can change your microphone, mute or unmute your microphone, change your speakers, and test your audio. You can mute or unmute your microphone by clicking on the icon. Press the M key on your keyboard to mute or unmute your microphone. Hubs uses spatial audio, so your voice will be louder the closer you are to others. To chat with others, press on the chat icon in the toolbar, or press the T key on your keyboard. You'll see chat in a sidebar. Add a message. You can add emoji icons. You can add file attachments. And you can also create labels or text in the room. You can also add notes to the room like post-it notes, add a message in the chat window, and then click the magic wand icon. Click on the attachment icon to attach different types of media into the room. And that's how you can chat and talk with others in Mozilla Hubs. All right, well, so that leads us to the end of our presentation, at least for the recorded part. So we'll, I'll go ahead and put the link in the chat here to get to this website. Hopefully you'll join us if you're available. I'd like to go on a virtual field trip with us or do a little social networking. You'll be able to join us by clicking on that button there. And otherwise, I don't know if we have any final questions in the chat, Monica. It looks like we're ready to move over to Hubs.
Yeah, I think we're good. Just make sure everyone knows how to get there. I'll stick around for a minute or two while everyone's moving over.
Well, thanks everybody who joined us today. If you're not able to attend the last part of this, we hope that you enjoyed it. Please take a look at the website for those resources if you're interested to learn more. And there's the link in the chat right now. So I'm gonna just hang tight here a little bit. Monica, if you want to head over to the Hubs room, and I'll be there in just a minute as we close up.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Cheryl. I'm trying to get in, and is there like a location that I need to type in or something to get to where you're at?
Yeah, so there's a link in the chat. Are you able to get to that website right there? And then is there a join our session button that you see from there?
Yep. Okay.
And great.
Let me see. I'm a cat as a new avatar, so we'll see. Okay.
Okay. Okay, great. Well, and you can leave Zoom now, so feel free to leave Zoom.
I will do that.
And that's sometimes you run into the audio feedback right when we have microphones running in two spaces. So Amanda, thank you so much. I think I'm going to go ahead and leave and hop on over to our Hubs room.
Thank you. This presentation has been awesome. I'll see you guys on the other side.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.